one of the harder things to remember is that you're already doing better than most people in any particular area. And I struggle with this because I don't like that sort of assumption, but it's absolutely true. If you look at most statistics and you pick this statistic, it will almost always show that you are doing better in that particular area, even if you are comparing yourself against any number of top performers. And what you'll notice is that the way that it actually works is that if you simply work and if you simply just do something, you are outpacing almost everybody. It's a simple rule. It's called the 80-20 rule, but it's really talking about this thing called the Pareto distribution. I'm not going to get into that, but essentially the highest frequency of something happening is actually around 0, and a probability of 0 of something happening. And the vast majority of the incidents will actually occur around then. So if you think about human behavior, for example, or if you think about financial outcomes, for example, of anything that you do, it's going to be clustered very closely towards where there's nothing happening. But there's going to be a few outliers in that particular domain. There's lots of research that sort of talked about this, popular press stuff like the long tail, for example, the Black Swan event, and all of these kind of things are basically the same story, where most things actually don't happen that often. Most people, for example, are they are not producers of any sort, right? Their outcomes are typically really low, and the odd time there's an individual that does spectacularly well. So I want you to think about this in your life. What does this mean for you, and how you might think about this? So I have this thing, my wife and I have this thing, and I know that this is really crude, but please don't misinterpret it, because I know it's easy to be misinterpreted. But I say that most people suck. And what that means is that on average, most people are not going to do anything. That's what I mean. Or, that they have various different motivations to be preoccupied to other things. Maybe they have other things going on, and only a small portion of people are ever going to do anything and produce anything and actually try at something. So I'd encourage you to think about that. If you are doing something right now, right, you might be looking around, you might feel like, I am not accomplishing that much. No, you are doing far more than the average. You're doing far more than most people by actually trying and getting out there and doing something and interacting with the world. Most people don't do that. It's such a weird thing when you look at these statistics. And I think whenever I sort of talk about this, or if you were to go and look at actual statistics and manage something, you will know what I'm talking about. And generally, there is a vast majority of the people just don't provide outcomes, or they don't do something, or whatever, right? Like you pick the particular thing that you're interested in, you'll see that. And that's a normal, you'll see that often happen. And so you have to take a step back and say, I'm actually doing something that's better than most people, and that's actually pretty good. So even if your outcomes, whatever you get, is not that great, and it doesn't feel like you're doing anything, and you think in your head, like, I'm not accomplishing anything, all of the sort of stuff that we go through where we are like, oh, I feel just so silly. Why am I doing this? I'm spending all this time, all of that stuff that you're thinking about, all those sort of psychological things, you are doing far above average, and you're doing far better than most people in most areas. I just want you to say, like, don't beat yourself up. There is not what is called a normal distribution. That's like a bell curve that you've heard about. That's not what normally happens. What normally happens is that there's a very, what's called a high density right around doing nothing, or a negative or 0 outcomes, and then only a few are actually moving the needle. That is very, very typical of seeing this kind of behavior. So remember, you're doing okay. Remember, if you are just trying, you're doing a little bit, you're practicing, you are actually making an effort at any given time, I'm serious. If you're making an effort at any given time, you're doing far better than everybody else. So I want you to take a step back, know that you are trying, and take a lot of that pressure off and move forward. I want you to know that. I want you to internalize it. Simply the fact that you're trying, you're getting up is better than most people. And that's a hard thing for all of us to internalize, but that is the truth. You are doing well. You're well on your way. Slow down. Take those steps, one little step at a time, and eventually it actually does happen. Whatever you're trying to do. All right. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.